What's poppin', y'all? Welcome back to another episode of NBA Weekly. I'm your host, Pee Wee the Plug, and in today's episode, we have to give the Game 1 reaction of the NBA Finals. Before we dive into that, though, I just want to remind you guys to make sure you hit that like button for me, and if you're new and you enjoy this type of NBA content on a weekly basis, make sure you subscribe. Game 1. I'll be honest, Game 1 went exactly how I anticipated it to go. I thought the Nuggets would come out strong, send a message to Miami. I felt like the last few games or last week for Miami was a bit of a whirlwind. They were up 3-0 and then quickly lose 3 in a row and have to play a Game 7 on the road and go directly to Denver was a little bit exhausting. And Denver has been sharp throughout the entire playoffs, has looked like the number 1 seed, has looked like the favorite to win the championship, and they delivered. Early on, before the game started, they showed the preview of Mike Malone in the locker room talking about how in every series, Miami has taken Game 1. And I felt like that was important for Denver. You know, Miami is a team, when you give them early hope, they can take that and they turn it into major hope. And the next thing you know, you're down 2-1, 3-1, trying to figure out how you got down to this team that isn't probably as talented as your roster looks. But it was evident for me in the first quarter, and I took notes throughout the entire game like I normally do when we get to the NBA Finals time or in general. And the points in the paint was major. Out of the gate, the points in the paint was a big emphasis. There was a lot of times where in transition, Aaron Gordon would somehow be matched up with a smaller defender, and the Nuggets made sure that Miami paid a price. And in the first quarter, they scored 29 points, and out of those 29 points, 20 of them were in the paint. And early on, I mean, Aaron Gordon finished with 16 and 6, but in the first half he had 14 just again in the interior, and they were really taking advantage of them there. Jokic in the first half, 10 assists, 10 points, double-double. Jamal Murray was pretty much getting anywhere he wanted. I love the fact that he was taking the mid-range shots, and they punched them. They came out early on in that first quarter, early on in that first half, and they really, really gave it to the Miami Heat. And for the rest of the way, Miami was trying to fight and climb back. One thing early on that I'm seeing, and that the first half kind of told me, is that Miami is going to have to make a decision. And in this game, a big DNP was Kevin Love. And Kevin Love is, these last few years of his career, has been streaky. He's either making perimeter shots as a stretch 4 and giving you some rebounds, or he's not making shots. And at that point, if he's not making shots, it's really hard to keep him on the floor. And when you're playing against smaller teams like Boston, when they play Tatum at the 4, it can give you troubles. And the Denver Nuggets at times can do that when they take out Aaron Gordon and put in Bruce Brown and MPJ is at the floor and whatnot. But because of how much they were beat up on the inside, again, you have to figure out how to balance that out. And Kevin Love is a bigger body, a guy who's known as a rebounder in our league. The outlet passes that we saw against New York can maybe get him some transition points, because Miami is going to have to find a way to get some type of offense going outside of Bam Adebayo, who really came to play tonight on the offensive end as far as being a number 1 option, because we didn't get one of those games from Jimmy. Another big thing for me in the first half was the shooting. You see Miami, I got it written down at halftime. They started off this game 4 of 17 in the first half from 3. And that's just not going to be winning basketball for Miami. And that's going to be something that's going to hurt them, because they're going to have to be able to knock down shots against this Denver Nuggets team. 23% from 3 in the first half. You had Caleb Martin and Max Strus 0 of 12 from the field, which is deflating. It's deflating, and this is one of the sad realities, or scary realities for us basketball fans, is you love the Miami Heat's run. You love everything they've been able to do. But going into this series, we all had to ask ourselves, how legit and how much can we depend on Caleb Martin continuing to give us performances? You know, is this a hot stretch that will fizzle out here? Can they keep it up? Those are reasonable questions that a lot of people had. And a guy like myself, I found myself betting against Miami in every single round, because I thought at some point some of these guys who have become major contributors during this run, they'll fizzle out. Caleb Martin will probably slow down. Max Strus will hit a cold streak. Gabe Vincent won't continue to make the 3-point shots from the perimeter, somebody was going to slow down. And in tonight's game, you had two big key guys, and Caleb Martin has become be a starting wing for them. And again, that was just halftime. To end the game, you had Max Strus and Caleb Martin combining for 1 of 17 and 1 of 11 from three. And Max Strus didn't make a single field goal. The 1-3 came from Caleb Martin, a random three that felt like, okay, there's something. And I give Miami the benefit of the doubt. They did fight, and I think it is very, very important to make sure that we don't get carried away with a 1-win, a 1-0 lead. Miami stood around, and Miami is a veteran team. They're a hungry team, and they're a team that's in this position with nothing to lose. So Eric Spoelstra is going to go back to the drawing board. They're going to make adjustments, and they're going to fight. And a team like them always has a chance because they're so willing to fight it and grind it out and get gritty. And, because they have nothing to lose. This is a team that we've talked about it so many times about this playoffs. They got Kevin Love, who was like waived or released by the Cavs. 7 undrafted players. Jimmy Butler, not the sexiest superstar. His story of being homeless. They have that culture inside of the locker room where everybody has this chip on their shoulder and they really have nothing to lose. And because of that, you have to make sure that you put them away. So Denver has to make sure that they come out in game 2 extremely sharp. They got to make sure they come out with that same type of pep in their step to hit them early. And as long as you do that, it's going to make Miami kind of be playing from behind, and they're already not that gifted offensively. And they want to slow the game down. They want to make it slow tempo, and they want to grind it out. Denver is getting out and running. Nikola Jokic's 9th triple-double of the playoffs, already has a triple-double in this series. He was lights out and fantastic. He made every pass there was to make. MPJ 3-point shots, Aaron Gordon dump-ins, KCP shots, Jamal Murray with the handoffs. And that's going to be a tough thing for them because he hit some outstanding shots as well. He had some 3-point shots, some fall-away shots. And time again, like he's done all playoffs, him and Jamal Murray hit timely shots. And the Nuggets as a whole do that. There was a couple times where it's like a 17-point lead, a 15-point lead, and before you know it, it's like a 12-point lead, and it's a 10-point lead, and Miami is kind of gaining some confidence, and before you know it, boom, corner 3 from MPJ. They get a stop, boom, a dunk from Aaron Gordon. Now it's back to 15 that fast. And those type of shots and responses to a run from a Miami team is deflating. Miami's trying to crawl back, and they feel like they're getting some momentum, and before you know it, a KCP jump shot just kind of revamps the entire arena and takes away the confidence of a team like Miami who's down on the road. And I think that was spectacular for me. Got Christian Brown early minutes, Bruce Brown off the bench in double figures again. In Miami, one highlight for them that I took away from this was Haywood Highsmith. Yeah, you didn't get Caleb Martin, you didn't get Max Strus, but I was watching at the end like, bro, is this another situation where Miami is going to get a guy out of nowhere become an important factor in this series? Now, there is a situation and scenario where Haywood Highsmith only has this game and he maybe does nothing else offensively in this entire series. But based off everything we've seen throughout this playoffs, this is kind of Miami's recipe, right? Where they have a guy in the rotation that you kind of don't pay attention to, and then boom, that player becomes a big-time contributor to kind of push them over the top, and they get their extra points, extra scoring from somebody random. We got it from Max Strus at one point. Then it was Gabe Vincent. It felt like against my Knicks, he just couldn't miss threes. Then it was Caleb Martin against Boston. Like, they've always had these guys. In the first round, you had Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler was just going at Drew Holiday. He was having magnificent games, looking like the best player in the playoffs. And then every round since then, there's been some oddball person in the rotation who you may not expect it from step up and really put them over the top. Of course, you got Duncan Robinson, who's been back in the rotation, knocking down shots and whatnot. The way they shot the 3 ball, it just won't be it. It's not going to be enough. They ended the third quarter 84-63, down 21 points. Everything else, it felt like they didn't play horrible. They won the turnover battle. They had more offensive rebounds, things like that. But when it came down to the 3-point shooting and it came down to offense in general, They just weren't able to generate much. Jimmy Butler, 13, 7, and 7, 6 of 14 from the field. He's going to have to find a way to get a lot more aggressive and really try to channel the Jimmy Butler we got in the first round against the Milwaukee Bucks. Gabe Vincent shot the three ball really, really well, 5 of 10 from three with 18 points or 19 points himself. And like I said, Bam gave you 26, 13, and 5, and he was ultra aggressive. This is the Bam Adebayo that the Miami Heat and their fan base is always asking for on a game-by-game basis. And I feel like if you can get that from him throughout the rest of this series, Jimmy Butler turns up his aggression, and Max Strus and Caleb Martin give you anything, you still have a chance to win this series. A lot has to go right for the Miami Heat because, again, even if Max Strus and Caleb Martin give you some type of production, you still have to mirror the fact that Jokic gave you 27, Murray gave you 26, Gordon gave you 16, MPJ gave you what? I can't even remember what, 14 or something like that. Bruce Brown gives you 10. Like, the Nuggets get out, they run, they score, they shoot. You got pick and roll, you got handoffs. And defensively, they switched. They were doing a lot of switching with everybody except Jokic. And Miami, throughout the playoffs, have been able to beat teams with their switching. You know, if you're switching, they've been able to throw the ball around and make shots. I feel like the ball movement was still there. It's just that the shots didn't fall. And I think going forward, that's going to be something along with trying to figure out how to present more size. I'm also worried about Bam just because they don't have a backup center at all. And if there's any way that Bam gets in foul trouble, it can be bad for them. It can be bad for them. There was one point when we first started the second half, he picked up 2 quick fouls and he was already at 3. And obviously their back was against the wall, so Spo let him play. Only 3, fine. But I feel like if there's ever a situation where, he's able to get 2 quick or 3 in the first half, that kind of puts you in a bad situation because the minutes Cody Zeller tried to give you, Jokic is just having his way. Hayward Highsmith is too small. And I'm still stuck on the fact that Kevin Love got a DNP. Starting, I get it. Let Caleb Martin a high hand start. Should he be a priority off the bench? Probably not. I understand that. But for Kevin Love to give you nothing, DNP, didn't touch the floor at all, it's kind of a head scratcher looking at the size and the points in the paint. Now, again, is Kevin Love going to be the rim protector and stop the points in the paint? I don't want to pretend that Kevin Love is going to do anything crazy defensively, but his size is able to limit guys in the interior or on the glass defensively or offensively. And hell, if he can knock down any shots from the perimeter, that's an added boost for Miami. And again, when you shoot the ball as bad as they did tonight, it's going to put you in a situation where it's going to be hard to win games. The Denver Nuggets are coming out sharp. They're looking like the real deal. And as long as Jamal Murray and Jokic are playing the way that they're playing and they're getting their production from MPJ and the bench, they're going to be able to win this series easily. I have right now the Nuggets taking this in 5. And as long as they continue the same recipe of just being hungry, everybody playing free, that was my favorite thing. Michael Porter Jr. took a shot. He didn't make it, but it was just a shot that I was like, this team, they're going for the jugular. They're going for it. It was a transition shot. They were up by maybe double digits, and I just felt like that shot, when he caught it, I was like, shoot it. And I felt like that was the type of shot that's like, fuck you. Like, we're here. We're trying to destroy you. We're trying to break you. When you have a lead, a 12-point lead in the second quarter or whatever, whenever he took the shot, a lot of teams trying to find a good shot, slow it down. We have the lead. We can. No. Denver was going and going and going and going and going. They let their players play throughout this game. Mike Malone wasn't hesitant to let his guys play. It wasn't like, we got a 20-point lead going into the fourth. We just going to dump in the bench. Like, nah. Jokic took a seat, but Jamal Murray was still in there getting his shit off. I looked up, and, Miami had fought back, and them boys is back in there, and they ran away with the game again and silenced that momentum run that Miami was trying to put together in the fourth quarter, which, again, is why I'm saying I know a lot of people are going to look at that game. You're going to see the score. You're going to see the box score numbers of how bad Max Strus and Caleb Martin shot, how, lack of aggressive Jimmy looked as far as shot attempts. And it's going to be like, oh, okay, the Nuggets can maybe win this in a sweep, which they can. But I feel like an underlying point that will be missed from box score viewing is the fact that Miami a couple times really put together some impressive runs and stood around. And that gives me a little bit of hope for them that, again, if you can find a source of production between two key guys who have been, big for you this entire run, then you might give yourself a shot in the dark. And if your supporting cast can give you some production, all you want at that point is Bam and Jimmy. Bam and Jimmy, Bam and Jimmy. But I tell you one thing. In this series, the Miami Heat will not win a game with Jimmy Butler shooting 14 shots. That's damn near the biggest thing for me. I mean, it's hard to ignore the fact that, again, Max Strus and Caleb Martin both combined for 1 of 17 from the field and 1 of 11 from three. That's the biggest thing. That's extremely hard to ignore. That's hard to ignore. That stands out without a doubt. But Jimmy Butler shooting 14 shots is right after that. Because when you look at the game Bam gives you, you hope that Jimmy Butler is there to match it. You're going to need both of them to kind of match each other. This is not a series where next game Jimmy's going to come out and give you 37 and then Bam has 15. Like, both of these guys has to give Miami their best performances of the playoffs right now. And then the Gabe Vincent 19 points as a cherry on top. You know what I'm saying? The Hayward Highsmith 18 points as a cherry. Like, if Jimmy gives you anything close to what he's averaged in the playoffs, and you're able to get 18 from Hayward Highsmith and 19 from Gabe Vincent, I think we have a different discussion or a different conversation about game one. I still think Denver wins this game because I don't think Denver was going to come out and lose this game at all. I just knew that this team was going to come out ready to make a statement that, hey, we're not the typical team y'all play in the playoffs. We haven't lost at home. Y'all are taking game ones. All right, cool. We ain't losing game ones either. Y'all being talked about because y'all the 8th seed. We're getting talked about because everybody looked at us as like we're supposed to do this with the number 1 seed, but this ain't about to be Milwaukee, New York, or Boston. And that's the highlight for me. Max Strus, Caleb Martin have to be better. Kevin Love may have to get some more minutes and be in that rotation more than Eric Spoelstra wants. And if he ain't doing shit, you just take him right back out. But the lack of size was evident with the points in the paint. I mean, to score 29 points in the first quarter and 20 of them be points in the paint is a little bit outrageous. Also, Miami, again, they have to score. They saved their best and highest scoring quarter for the fourth with 30. But other than that, they barely could get mid-20s. Started off the game with 20 points in the first quarter. Second quarter was 22. Third quarter was 21. And the Nuggets started off with 29, 30, 25, and their lowest scoring quarter was the fourth with 20. So the Miami Heat won the fourth quarter by 10, but the work and the damage was already pretty much done. So I'm looking forward to that. And Eric Spoelstra, again, has been one of my favorite people in basketball throughout this entire playoff run because of the adjustments that he's made. And he's just had a knack for putting certain players in position to be effective for Miami in each series. And I'm going to look at Hayward Highsmith very, I'm not going to stare at him, but I'm going to look at him a little bit to see how he is for the rest of this series because Miami, again, has been fortunate enough to have a new guy step up for them outrageously step up in every series. And the way Hayward Highsmith was hooping this series, you got to kind of give a side eye at him. Now, we'll see what game 2. If he comes out game 2 don't do nothing, then it's like, okay, that was just a nice game 1. But if he's being super productive in the next one, we may have to start looking. But series is far from over. Series is definitely far from over. Can't wait for the next game. Nikola Jokic, this ring is going to be alive. He keeps performing like this, 27, 14, and 10. Triple doubles. Finals MVP, 2-time back-to-back MVPs, looked like the best player in basketball. So next year he'll probably be the front runner for MVP again. This team just looks like a team that's going to be able to consistently win 50 to 60 games a year. And their core got it out the mud, got it out the draft, and the few acquisitions that they made, nobody really looked at them as superstar acquisitions. Aaron Gordon they got from Orlando, who was just ready to part ways. KCP was just a free agent. Or no, KCP was a trade from Washington. Nobody valued him like that in Washington. And then boom, you got him for Will Barton and Monte Morris, and now you're rocking and you're rolling. Christian Brown was able to play some minutes as a rookie in the first half, in the first quarter. He came out and had some defensive impact. So Denver, Miami, game 1 in the books. Denver takes it home. We got a bunch of basketball left. We are praying as basketball fans that this is not a 4-game series. We do not want to sweep this far in the season, but Jokic is looking like he's trying to cement himself as an all-time great. This is NBA Weekly. I am Pee Wee the Plug. I will see y'all next time. I'm out. Peace.